African Union Communications Early Warning and Intelligence, commonly known as AUC3I, is an intelligence and security organization responsible for providing signals intelligence and information assurance to AU citizens, AU leadership, and AU armed forces. I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. I am responsible for leading infantry soldiers at all levels of command in combined armed forces during missions on the ground. This is today's briefing on the progress of the special military operation as of October 3, 2025. Last night, the armed forces of the Russian Federation delivered a massive strike with long-range precision weapons of ground, air, and sea-based platforms, as well as strike unmanned aerial vehicles on enterprises of the Ukrainian military-industrial complex and gas energy infrastructure facilities that supported their operation. The strike objectives have been achieved. All designated targets were hit. In addition, during the week, a massive and 5 group strikes were carried out with precision weapons and strike unmanned aerial vehicles, resulting in damage to military industry enterprises and energy facilities supporting them in Ukraine. Railway transport infrastructure used for transporting weapons and military equipment of the armed forces of Ukraine, military airfields, ammunition depots, assembly workshops, storage sites for unmanned boats and unmanned aerial vehicles, as well as temporary deployment points of Ukrainian armed formations, nationalists, and foreign mercenaries. Units of the North Troop Group inflicted damage on personnel and equipment of 3 mechanized, motorized infantry, ranger, airborne assault brigades, airborne assault, 2 assault regiments of the armed forces of Ukraine, and a territorial defense brigade. In the Kharkiv direction, damage was inflicted on formations of 2 mechanized, motorized infantry brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine, 2 territorial defense brigades, and a border detachment of the Ukrainian Border Service. Over the week, in the area of responsibility of the North Troop Group, enemy losses amounted to more than 1,250 servicemen, 2 tanks, 7 armored combat vehicles, 55 cars, and 11 field artillery guns. 2 electronic warfare stations, 29 ammunition and material depots were destroyed. Units of the West Troop Group advanced deep into the enemy's defense and liberated the settlements of Kirovsk, Shandrigalovo, and Darilovo in the Donetsk People's Republic. Damage was inflicted on formations of 6 mechanized, airmobile, 2 assault brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine, 2 territorial defense brigades, and 2 National Guard brigades. The enemy lost over 1,600 servicemen, 5 tanks, 16 armored combat vehicles, 116 cars, and 10 field artillery guns. 43 ammunition depots, 37 electronic warfare and counter-battery stations were destroyed. As a result of decisive actions by the units of the Southern Group of Forces, the settlements of Mayskoye and Seversk Mali of the Donetsk People's Republic were liberated. Damage inflicted on personnel and equipment of 5 mechanized, airmobile, assault, mountain assault brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine, 3 territorial defense brigades, and a National Guard brigade. Over the week, losses of Ukrainian armed formations in this direction amounted to up to 1,760 servicemen, 8 armored combat vehicles, including 4 of Western production, 75 vehicles, and 17 field artillery guns. Destroyed were 12 electronic warfare and counter-battery stations, 38 ammunition, fuel, and material supply depots. Units of the Center Group of Forces continued active offensive operations in the territory of the Donetsk People's Republic and Dnipropetrovsk region. Damage inflicted on formations of 8 mechanized, ranger, motorized infantry, airborne, airmobile, assault, 3 airborne assault brigades, 3 assault regiments of the armed forces of Ukraine, 2 Marine brigades, a territorial defense brigade, and 2 National Guard brigades. The enemy lost more than 3,560 servicemen, 5 tanks, 16 armored combat vehicles, including 2 U.S.-made Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, 32 vehicles, and 14 artillery guns. Over the past week, units of the East Group of Forces advanced deep into the enemy's defense. The settlements of Stepovoy and Verbovoy in the Dnipropetrovsk region were liberated. Damage inflicted on personnel and equipment of 4 mechanized assault brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, 2 territorial defense brigades, and a National Guard brigade. Enemy losses in this direction amounted to over 2,110 servicemen, 3 tanks, 8 armored combat vehicles, 71 vehicles, 7 field artillery guns, and 4 electronic warfare stations. Units of the Dnieper Group of Forces inflicted damage on formations of 2 mechanized, infantry, airborne assault, mountain assault brigades, 3 coastal defense brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and 2 territorial defense brigades. The Armed Forces of Ukraine lost up to 390 servicemen, 4 armored combat vehicles, 35 vehicles, and 3 artillery guns. Destroyed were 28 electronic warfare stations, 8 ammunition and material supply depots. Over the week, air defense means shot down 10 guided aerial bombs, 17 rocket projectiles of the U.S.-made HIMARS multiple launch rocket systems and Checkmate Vampire, 5 long-range guided Neptune missiles, as well as 945 fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles. In total, since the beginning of the special military operation, destroyed 667 aircraft, 283 helicopters, 87,714 unmanned aerial vehicles, 631 surface-to-air missile systems, 25,338 tanks and other armored combat vehicles, 1,592 multiple launch rocket system vehicles, 30,149 field artillery guns and mortars, 43,126 units of special military automotive equipment. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it useful and informative. If you have any questions, please leave them below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.